Welcome to People of Interest. Thank you for coming out. I hope that we can provide a bit of relief from this crazy week. I think we're all aware it's been a very crazy week. So if you've, because it's been so crazy, if you forgot how the show works, or perhaps you're new, welcome. I've come up with the descriptions for three very interesting characters. Waiting in the Wings are three very interesting performers who are going to perform those characters. The catch is they have no idea who their characters are, and they're not going to find out until I read them to you, the audience. So who are those interesting performers, you ask? Well, let's meet them. We've got Rob Alesiani, Andrew Nealis, the award-winning Andrew Nealis, and Jack O'Keefe, who is moonlights as some sort of firebrand who's stirring up nothing but positive things, though. I just want to say, in case anyone that's a negative connotation. And I do want to thank Rob for filling in for his wife, Katie Swerko, who was unfortunately unable to attend this evening. She was feeling a little under the weather, but I've been assured she does not have the coronavirus. So that's exciting, right? So let's get started. And of course, I need to mention, if you're at home, hit the Q&A button and ask questions, and you might get your question read on air. So if you have a question and you think you can do better than me in terms of questioning, show me up. I welcome it. It's just going to improve the show. It's a community here, so it's feeling good. Anyway, as always, before we get started, here are today's headlines.
Good evening. I'm Neil Bardhan. It's 33 degrees in South Philly, and here at POI News, we are again providing your bananas news at a time when you think the world is simply bananas news. Pennsylvania Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman formally began his campaign for the United States Senate this week. Known for his massive size, beautiful home, and pro-marijuana stance, Fetterman has also gained attention for stoking inflammatory conversations about the relative merits of Sheetz versus Wawa convenience stores across the Commonwealth. In a speech Thursday, Fetterman pleaded with the media, "Can most people outside Pennsylvania even name their lieutenant governor? I gotta get my brand out there somehow." Hundreds of domestic terrorists attacked the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. earlier this week. Many of them ignored public health standards by refusing to wear masks while they filmed themselves for social media and committed crimes in literal broad daylight against theoretically one of the most secure places in the known universe. The Federal Bureau of Investigation has asked the public for help in identifying the perpetrators, which is an awful lot like the time my 8th grade math teacher had a hangover on a Tuesday and asked me to teach the lesson for the day. Except that my teacher had a better excuse. Finally, in good local news, health agencies have created a new vaccine clinic at the Philadelphia Convention Center. Those unfamiliar with the area should look for the dancing mailboxes, DJ booths, and giant eagle puppets that have taken over the nearby streets since November. In all seriousness, I volunteer for writing these news blurbs, and what a journey it has been once again. For POI News, good night. People of Interest is supported by USAA. USAA provides top-notch financial services to veterans and current members of the armed forces and their families. For those of you who are neither of those things, we will continue to run commercials taunting you with our great rates that you will never get to experience. People of Interest is...
Given how stressful the current political climate is here in America, many people have decided to swear off using social media and reading the news entirely to improve their own mental health. While most people only unplug for, say, a few days or maybe a week, my next guest, Chris Anderson, decided to swear off all social media and news coverage in August of 2019. That's right, Anderson has been completely radio silent on everything that's been going on in the world for the past year and a half. Well, he has until Wednesday. In his last post, when he officially declared that he was giving up on social media and news, he said that he would arbitrarily pick the date of January 6th, 2021 to plug back in. And as you might imagine, it was not the best day to get caught back up on everything. We check in with Anderson tonight to see how he's coping with all this and to see what his plans are for the future. Chris Anderson, welcome.
Hi, Ryan. It's been a few days.
Yeah.
It's been a few days.
It feels like you must have gone. Must feel like you went from 0 to like 120 in 2 seconds.
Yeah, I thought I was going to go from 0 to hero and come back to just a wave of accolades. Everyone was really into my stuff before I left, and I came back and just it was like shouting into a void. No one cared because are you familiar with the concept of just like if so many people are shouting once, nobody's hearing you.
Mm-hmm.
They can even be saying the same thing, but eventually the human mind just isn't capable of taking that much in at once, and you just kind of like you zone out. Well, that's where I was, back in August of 2019, and I said, I need to calm down, and I'm sure that when I come back, things will be calmer and cooler heads will prevail, and and I came back, and a bunch of white supremacists were taking the Capitol. So I don't know why I arbitrarily picked January 6th. I just, I liked the way that it kind of felt coming out of my mouth. January 6th, so that was a mistake. In the, I'm able to self-reflect, and that was a mistake. I should have never ever come back.
So what was the first thing that you saw when you came back?
The white supremacists.
It was just kind of just like, let's see what's happening on Facebook.
Right,
and just like,
yeah. I was like, let's just chime back in. Oh, maybe my aunt has some more recipes for lemon squares, or let's see what my exes are up to, married and kids, and they have them, and that does hurt. But it was mostly the white supremacists, the president inciting an insurrection, smiling, and his kids, and that kind of put a damper on. My aunt did have a good recipe for lemon squares, but I haven't been able to get flour for some time.
So, obviously, kind of took up most of the news of the day, but have you been catching up on 2020? I think a lot of people were probably jealous initially when you got to sort of skip it, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I was wondering why, it was like super easy to get to work every morning. Like usually my commute's like 45, 50 minutes, highways and byways and things like that. I've just been jamming through, like no problem. I was like making absolutely insane time to work. And, so catching up on everything that's gone on. And I have to say, it's startling. It's not. I left a world thinking that it was too mad to even possibly sustain itself, and I came back to another world that told that world to hold its beer, and that it would continue. And I'm really thinking I might just dig a hole and keep digging, and fashion some sort of burrow, or what's that book about the rabbits?
Watership Down.
That's the one. I want to build myself a Watership Down and really just kind of. I didn't finish the book. It started nice, but I assume it ended just as nice. I don't like to finish things. I don't, as soon as things get a little out of whack, as far as I know, I left Into the Woods at intermission when I went and saw it at the Broadway revival. Everything was great. Mm-hmm. Everyone was happy. Right. Luke Skywalker still has a hand, doesn't know who his dad is, and I'll never find out. So
Titanic, the boat never sank.
No, I didn't even see it. I honestly didn't even see it launch. My favorite part of that film, the setup.
Yeah, just everyone like, I
just like watching. I like watching plucky Irish people plan for the rest of their lives, and then after that, I don't enjoy sea travel. So once the boat entered, I tuned out.
Is there anything that you've caught up on that you were like, I'm sorry that I missed this? Is there anything that happened? You're like, that would have been a good thing to catch up on.
My taxes. I should have paid them. I got just got a random like lump sum of money back in the spring, and I was like, why? I was looking into it. I was like, why did this happen? And then it never happened again. But then they
Yeah.
started sending me more letters like, hey, buddy, what gives? Because I had been giving false information. I don't, at work, they hand me these forms, and it's like, before you can be an employee, you got to fill these out. It's like you put my name on there and, my address. And then, like, when they started asking for, like, finance, like, this is your bank's info, and what do you, I handed it back. I couldn't finish it. Too much.
Oh.
I don't, if it was important enough, they'd get back to me. And they did. And I am, I probably will have to serve some time, but
Sure.
I probably won't finish it.
Right. As long as they send you a letter, you'll maybe get to
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'll read it, most of it.
What are there any? I guess are there any positives aside from your aunt's Lenin squares coming back? Is there anything that was like, oh, well, at least there's that.
Well, there's been a lot. I got to catch up on some good music that I've missed. Apparently, like, I've always loved Fleetwood Mac. Never,
Mhm.
I won't finish many albums, but I'll finish Rumors. And then all of a sudden I come back and it's like, apparently Fleetwood Mac's like very popular again and might
Yeah.
tour when this is all over. But, so I was pretty jazzed to find out that, Lindsey Buckingham's really kind of getting his dues. My favorite member of Fleetwood Mac is Lindsey Buckingham.
Right. I mean, yeah. Like who? I guess it's him or Stevie Nicks, really.
Hey, is this interview over?
No, sorry, we got just a little bit more to do. But I'll try to keep it interesting.
Do you need me?
Yes, unfortunately.
Okay.
So
you can imagine how strange this is for me.
Yeah, I'll try to keep things fresh, so it's like you're answering new things. And you're just started. It's like starting over,
Yeah.
So what was so in August of 2019, you had Trump's phone call with Vladimir Zelensky from Ukraine. Was that sort of for you the straw that broke the camel's back, or?
Well, I kept thinking this one surely this will be it, and the madness will cease. And it just kept being like, the end of a TV series, but it's like The Simpsons. Like the show's been over forever, but they just keep adding people to it. Keep going. And like some seasons will be better than others. But as soon as The Simpsons started getting, a little wonky around season 8, 9, I stopped watching. And then I tuned back in, and I was like, why is Kid Rock here? And then I stopped and I tuned back in. And I was like, why are they doing a crossover with Family Guy? That show's always been terrible. And, so it was like that. It was like the country just kept having series finales and then getting, like another network would pick it up. And it just got too much to bear.
And you still had that same question of what is Kid Rock doing here? And that keeps
constantly. Yeah, when he said he was going to run for Congress, I was like, surely not. And then he said, like, this is a joke. I'm not going to do that. And that did give me some hope that if Kid Rock can admit to the bit, maybe there is hope for us. And then I think Trump, like hit a kid, like he threw a kid out of a car. It's something he sounds like he'd do, just like throw a kid out of a car.
You know what? I'm sure something like that happened. It's kind of a blur for all of us.
It really is.
You're probably
it really is.
So, interview's almost over. I was wondering if you have any, if you have any advice for people who need to unplug. Like, would you recommend going for as long as you did, or do you think maybe
longer?
Oh.
My advice would be never plug back in. If you're going to unplug, I support it. It has been good for my mental health. But that little voice inside your head going, what are people? What's going on out there? Don't listen to it. Shut it off too. And don't consume media past 1999 unless it's hip hop. It's really having a golden age right now. But shut that voice down that's telling you to tune back in. There's nothing worth it out there. somebody will send me a
Oh.
letter if it's worth coming back out again. So I assume.
Okay. We can hope. We did have one question from the audience before you go, and they're wondering, are you going to unplug right after the show? Is there anything that you need to like sort of catch up before you tune out again?
I do want to see if the Game of Thrones spinoff was as good as the finale of the original series. So how did that go? I haven't checked in. How'd the spinoff go? I'm assuming Hollywood's up and running.
Chris Anderson, thank you so much for being here. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Grubhub supports people of interest. Everyone is still going to order takeout once the pandemic is over, right? Like, before the pandemic, people would order a pizza to eat at home and watch a movie. That was a thing from before the pandemic, right? Look, it's been a long year, and we just want to make sure we're still in business when all this blows over.
To say podcasts have been booming is an understatement. According to the International Podcasting Society, the number of podcasts in the world has more than doubled in just the past 2 years, going from roughly 850,000 in 2018 to 1,753,429 today. This explosion has caused many to worry that we might one day run out of podcasts, and unfortunately that day has come. As it turns out, 1,753,429 is the absolute maximum number of podcasts that can exist in the world. Any podcast that is attempted to be created beyond today will simply not play anywhere you listen to your podcasts. So who is the lucky winner of the last ever podcast? It's my guest tonight, Matt Adams, and his podcast, Pteranodon Corleone, which investigates Adams' theory that the Godfather trilogy and the Jurassic Park franchise take place in the same cinematic universe. Adams joins us here tonight to talk about his podcast and how it feels to know that there will never be another podcast ever again. Matt Adams, welcome.
Well, first of all, Ryan, thanks, Rod. It's a real honor and it's a bit of a burden to have the last podcast available. But it's exciting. It's exciting, and in a lot of ways, it's a good thing. There's not going to be any more podcasts, but yeah.
Oh, in what way is it a good thing, would you say?
Well, we've got enough of them. There's everyone's got a podcast at this point with the quarantine, the lockdown. Everyone's taking this time to finally go and make a podcast about just about anything. I think it's also a really good time though to explore how Jurassic Park and The Godfather are interlinked, because it's really astounding, all of the deep connections that you can find between the two franchises, and I'm strictly talking about Jurassic Park, not Jurassic World. Just want to clarify, it stops at Jurassic World.
Okay, so Jurassic Park through the second Lost World film.
And then Jurassic Park 3.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's it. Okay.
That's it.
Until
of course, director Joe Johnston comes out with Jurassic Park Coda, The Death of Tyrannosaur, which is going to go straight to HBO Max. And, it's going to be the right re-edit that's going to really thematically tighten up a problematic film.
Oh, okay. So, I guess let's talk a little bit about the last podcast ever. What was your genesis? When did you get this idea?
I got it about 6 days ago, where I was talking to my buddy, my co-host, and we were talking about, he had just watched the Godfather movies, and I just watched the Jurassic Park movies, and we were talking about them. And we were like, oh. They're both a trilogy, both based on books. There's kind of some similarities here. So, we signed it. We went online, we registered our podcast idea, and then bing, bang, boom. Right when we hit register, a little message comes up and said, that's it. it just said, "That's it, enough." And we didn't know it was happening, and apparently that's it, no more podcasts. We hit the limit. So,
have you gotten any further? Have you gotten any further contact from the International Society of Podcasting? Sort of saying, this is what's going on. You're the last one, or they just were kind of that was that message and that was it.
It was just kind of like, that's enough. And some people are kind of stressed and pissed at us because they don't think that our premise has like legs to stand on. But I mean, I think we're going to be able to get this to at least like 100 plus episodes.
So who are some of the people that are mad at you? I'd imagine the Obamas are pretty mad because they just signed their podcasting deal with Spotify.
Yeah, the Obamas are pretty mad. He won't even talk to us, Barack. Joe Rogan wants to have us on, but he also wants to fight us while on DMT or whatever happens on the Joe Rogan experience or podcasts, whatever that is. I don't know. I don't listen to it. The McElroys are pretty upset because they really wanted to kind of have the McElroys have the final podcast.
Right.
But they're being chill with it. We're going to have them on at some point, each one individually, to really stretch out the running time. And really, the only person who's been cordial has been Paul F. Tompkins. But I don't know. Yeah.
Well, have you heard from anyone who was, sort of thinking of starting a podcast? Maybe they were building a backlog of shows that they could then, turn into a podcast.
Well, I mean, Terry Gross and the rest of NPR, they were like, "Hey, we have some important stories to tell. They have some really good narrative news things. Like, there's a lot going on right now where they really, really wanted to start some other shows and kind of get some new, exciting, like, news stories out there. Meanwhile, we're just like, the mob, herds of dinosaurs, herds, mobs. Let's discuss. That's an episode right there, in fact.
So you're saying that the herds of dinosaurs is in some way similar to the mafia, the Il Castro Mostra, the whole Godfather's sort of regime.
Yeah. It's similar. It's like when they make the dinosaurs and all the science and everything. It's kind of like making a good sauce. So that was like one of our first episodes. So we really talked about the parallels between making a good Sunday gravy and the Dilophosaurus out of some dino DNA that you pulled out of a mosquito. So
just to humor me, you did you had the idea 6 days before you registered the podcast. How much research did you do before you got started?
I watched most of Godfather 1, and I have not seen the other films, but we just kind of registered it because we thought it would be fun, fun thing to do in quarantine. But now there's all this pressure that we registered the last one, and it's not I guess we could give up the slot. We could give up the domain or the hosting and everything, and it can just kind of be whatever. But we want to give it a go. We got a lot of free publicity, so we're going to try and make it something interesting. But I don't know. It's we want to give the old college try, because why not? Because other people can give up their. It's not that it's, we hit the limit. You can repurpose any other show, right? Like Serial, we could take Serial's slot and Serial can say, we're done. I don't know if Serial's still going.
I don't know, to be honest. Were you a big fan of podcasting before you decided to make one?
Yeah, I listened to enough podcasts that my examples were Terry Gross, NPR, the McElroy brothers, Paul F. Tompkins, and Serial. So, I've listened to it, but I've listened to a few. It's it's a good thing to listen when you're, isolated in your house and it makes you feel like there's other people around.
Sure.
Yeah.
I just feel I do have to. I feel like I need to disclose this, but I was working on sort of converting people of interest into a podcast. We were sort of just building a backlog, and then we were going to
This isn't a podcast?
No, it's just a live. It's a live show. We were going to convert it to a podcast. We started finding the paperwork. Yeah.
When I said hello, I said thanks for having me on the pod, and you just let me say that, and you knew.
Yeah. I didn't want to. I didn't want to sort of sour this interview.
No, it is sour.
My own.
The whole thing went sour.
I'm sorry.
Like a bunch of Grandma Corleone's grill sitting out on East La Sorna. It's just gone all bad.
Listen, I didn't want to, blindside you with this, but it was probably unprofessional for me to have brought this up. I shouldn't have mentioned anything. Let's talk more. What's so?
You just like all this. You just want our RSS feed. That's all you want. You just want our RSS feed.
No, I would. I wouldn't.
You don't care about Godfather or Jurassic Park and how they're like same and in the same universe and stuff. You don't care about that.
No. Tell me how like Michael Corleone, goes to Jurassic Park, or what is it like when he finds out that there's dinosaurs, that they've cloned dinosaurs? Like what is it like when he like hears that?
He's like, oh no way, they cloned dinosaurs. That's really cool. Anyway, I have to run this crime family, so maybe this is something we could get into, but frankly, it sounds too complicated for my crime family. So they largely happen parallel to each other because what is he going to do? Have a bunch of Tommy gun wielding brontosauruses?
Yeah, I don't know if they still use Tommy guns by the third movie.
He's not a whimsical man. He's not going to be like, let's go to. Oh, I gotta go. Sorry, guys, I can't do this mafia hit. I have to go take my kids to Jurassic Park to look at some dinosaurs. If anything, he'd be like, the guy in the third one taking his kid there like illegally, being like, yeah, we're gonna sneak in. Look at these dinosaurs. I remember Al Pacino.
No, please go ahead. Do you do a lot of impressions on your podcast?
Dinosaurs, Rex. Okay, so actually, wait. Can I walk back on what I said? We can edit this out, right? We can edit out what I just said, right? You'd be like, they cloned dinosaurs. I can't believe it. And he'd be like that for a whole week. Then, I gotta go run this crime family. And then he'd be done. He'd just kind of.
And that's, as far as you know, since you haven't seen it, the plot of Godfather Part 3.
Well, yeah, because they just made a new version of it, too. So that's going to be like a whole week of episodes. So.
So one of the things I do need to talk about, the audience has been positively buzzing about this, is why are the Jurassic World sequels not in the same universe as The Godfather, even though they're in the same universe as Jurassic Park?
It's a different universe because there's 3 Godfathers, but there's 5 now. It's going on 6 Jurassic Parks. So the similarity is kind of end after the third one.
But if they exist in the same cinematic universe, shouldn't they all be in the same? Like, shouldn't a very old Michael Corleone be? He could have gone to Jurassic World when it was opened and gotten, eaten by a megalodon.
They include him as a statue in Jurassic World, and then that statue presumably gets blown up in the 5th one because the island explodes in the 5th one. The very very weird 5th movie. And I don't know how many people have seen.
Yes. We'll definitely have people sort of write in. So
Yeah, and
uh,
then James Bond appears as that hologram. You remember that part where that Velociraptor gets distracted by the hologram of James Caan?
like I mean, who wouldn't be? And James
Yeah.
Caan played Sonny Corleone in The Godfather.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So in this, yeah, so James Caan and Sonny Corleone have existed at the same time and look exactly the same.
Yeah. So he's not Sonny Corleone. That's the thing. That's why people might be confused. He's not Sonny Corleone. He's James Caan as that hologram.
Right,
But
because Sonny Corleone.
but it's a statue of Michael Corleone, not Al Pacino. That's why it's weird, and we just don't want to get into all of that. It's a whole thing, and I believe that there was some sort of universal reset that happened in the 20 years or so between Jurassic Park 3 and Jurassic World.
Okay,
You guys follow.
sure.
If you have more questions, just listen to the pod.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we're just about out of time. Do you have a quick elevator pitch you wanna make for the show?
Yeah. You know, ever notice how The Godfather and Jurassic Parks, they're like really similar if you think about it? We noticed that too. So come on down and listen to our show. That's the pitch that we use, and that's on the Apple Store as well. Is that not good?
No, it's great. It's great. Matt Adams, thank you so much for being here. Best of luck with your podcast.
Thank you for having me on your live stream.
Lexus supports people of interest. So, this is embarrassing, but we forgot about our December to Remember sales event. We lost a lot of sales. So now we're launching our January to Enshrine in Your Menuary sales event. Or maybe the January to Not Neglect You-ary sales event. Look, there are really not a lot of strong synonyms for remember, and none of them even close to rhyme with January.
These days, the expression the golden age of television gets thrown around a lot by television critics. Many believe that we are currently living in the golden age of television, as there's a plethora of exceptional TV shows across multiple streaming services and network channels. However, there's an argument to be made that the true golden age of television was the era of prestige dramas between the late 40s through the late 50s, and still others believe that it happened during the must-see TV era of the mid to late 90s. Well, for those who adhere to the purest core principles of TV criticism, we have not yet seen the true golden age of television, and when we do, it will be more glorious than anyone can imagine. Don't despair, though, for my next guest, ardent film critic Philip Black, believes that we are beginning to see the signs that the one true golden age of television is nearly upon us. Black joins us here tonight to discuss what the golden age of television will truly look and feel like, and what signs he's seeing that we are very near to that point. Philip Black, welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Ryan.
I'm for one am guilty of saying that we're currently living in the golden age of television. But reading on your blog and the various articles that you've posted around, I think I'm coming to see that perhaps we aren't. But could you tell us a little bit more about why this isn't the golden age of television yet? What is
Absolutely.
that?
First off, I would encourage you to stop being so hard on yourself. We are prone to hyperbole. If we hear someone saying it's the golden age of television, as someone who is a critic, I am very used to people wanting to agree with me or wanting to reject me. But I'm in a very peculiar position where people don't really have the agency to feel ambivalent about my opinions. So don't be too hard on yourself for being wrong. It's perfectly fine. As you've mentioned, I'm a film critic. I'm not a television critic by trade. So I am analyzing television from a film point of view. And as you mentioned in my blog, I have sort of outlined that what we currently believe to be sort of the golden standards of prestige television are just very, very long movies. Those are not television. We have not yet seen the golden age of television. Most of the television that people think is good are just movies that are very long. A very common instance of this is Twin Peaks: The Return. Twin Peaks was a TV show in the 90s. It came back, and when it was resurrected, David Lynch, a filmmaker himself, said, "Do not envision this as a television series. This is an 18-hour movie." And it goes on to be highly critically acclaimed because it's not television, it's film. So we have yet to see this supposed golden age of television. I do think it is on the horizon, but what we have right now is just a misunderstanding of the mediums.
Now, a lot of what you're, it doesn't seem like there's one one like written one Bible of the golden age of television, but a lot of work from Marshall McLuhan, who said that, the medium will stop being the message during the golden age of television. He's written, he very prescient, he sort of really predicted sort of the internet boom and things being on demand. Is there anyone else, that kind of really influences this worldview that has become this sort of Nostradamus of the golden age of television?
No. I think this is something that many people have taken stabs at. I think there have been attempts. You see the writing from Television Without Pity's early years. You see the writing of the AV Club during its heyday, before most of its best writers went off to start The Dissolve, or rest in peace. But you really don't see people who have hit the mark. You see people that are talking about television, and what they're talking about is, it's difficult because you're right. We don't have a Bible. Only God can write that. So until God comes down and says television is not good, we are all just sort of pointing in the dark and aiming for mathematical perfection. That's what I do. I'm aiming for mathematical perfection in all of my criticisms. I believe film and television these are not subjective things. There is objective quality to these. And television, its structure, its episodic nature, is imperfect. The times where it approaches perfection are when it resembles films. And I understand you think, Phil, you're repeating yourself. I know I'm repeating myself, and that's because my points matter, and they need to be heard, Ryan.
Of course. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
So what are some of the signs that that are pointing that we're getting there? I know that you've written extensively on The Good Wife and how that's been like sort of the big marker, the initial coming of the golden age. Could you just tell the audience a little bit about that?
So what we're seeing is that people who know how to make good things have started making television. The Good Wife, as you mentioned, I think was a crucial moment because it was executive produced by Ridley Scott. So it is the closest thing we have to an alien television series. You understand? It's the closest thing we have to a Blade Runner television series. The Good Wife is as good as both of those things because Ridley Scott also made The Good Wife. We have a David Lynch who has returned with an intention, not being shackled down by having to work with Mark Frost, a television writer. Okay? That is sort of where this is coming from. There's no canon of television directors. Nobody knows what the hell they're doing. But now that television is a profitable landscape, we have people who have studied film who know what they're doing. Some might even say, and I would argue this, the most recent Coen Brothers film is a television series.
Oh, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Precisely. You could say it's an anthology film, but that many anthologies, that's a TV series.
Well, now we're also seeing, though, a lot of we're starting to see TV directors who are moving into films. The most obvious example, the Russo brothers, helming the several of the Marvel films, including the final two Avengers films.
Right. I'm not interested in having that discussion. I've heard what Martin Scorsese has to say about Marvel movies. This is not cinema. Look at Mimi Leader, who could have been an accomplished film director, but decided to go work on The Leftovers, and then went and directed that Ruth Bader Ginsburg movie that nobody saw a couple of years ago. These television directors that say they have this platform that are moving up, they don't go anywhere. They'll make their money and whatnot. But you mentioned the Russo brothers. What we're going to see, we're not going to see a golden age of television. We're going to see a nadir of film.
Oh,
is that the great filmmakers are going to have to change their medium because it's all Marvel now. It's all Star Wars. Everything's Star Wars now. I don't know if you've noticed this.
but there's also a Star Wars TV show, The Mandalorian.
You mean that very, very long movie and its sequel? Because that's what it is. It's Kurosawa, all the film. So Kurosawa all the way. They're just doing Kurosawa.
Yes.
They're doing a Seven Samurai with Yoda.
Right, like a baby Yoda.
Nonetheless, it's a Seven Samurai.
Sure. It's just one samurai. Well, sometimes there's more, I guess. It might be more like Yojimbo, maybe, but anyway, so what now that we've kind of talked about where is it, it's on its way. What is that? Mm-hmm. What is it going to look like? What is the city on the hill for television going to look like? How will we feel as a people when it finally, hits that? Will there be like one moment where we all just sort of just breathe, feel like we're breathing for the first time?
Yes. I think what we are going to see is a television show where every episode is 90 minutes to 2 hours, that is filmed in a 16:9 aspect ratio, and that features actors that have won Oscars exclusively. Exclusively Oscar winners.
Like right down to the extras. It's all just going to be Oscar winners.
No extras. You don't need extras. You don't need extras.
I mean, if you're doing a movie where like a court scene, you're going to need people to play the jury or
just not have them.
Oh. What about people who win, like, say, Tony Awards? Would that be acceptable if they were just only nominated for an Academy Award? Is that
put them in a movie? Have you seen Lin-Manuel Miranda act in a movie? Have you seen it?
No, I suppose I haven't.
Exactly.
So is there going to be like the groundswell, that one show that breaks everything open and then everything from there, or is it going to be all of the there's going to be multiple shows, they just all appear at once?
I think there is going to be one show. I think we are going to have what people thought that The Sopranos was, and I understand why we all sort of coalesced around that. The idea was so exciting, and it was a step in the right direction, but not really fully there. Mm-hmm. And there is one show I have my eye on that's being passed around some of the higher studios. It's a film about a young boy. He's going to high school in Iowa, and all the girls have crushes on him, and it's sort of him going on dates with all of these very attractive women, and he gets to pick at the end. And it's scripted. It's not reality. It's scripted. It's very important, and it's 2 hours each episode. And it's just him talking and them talking about sort of how he's been doing really great and that they're very impressed with his grades, and he doesn't really have to worry about what's going on at home. Would you like to read the script?
Sure. I mean, if you have a snippet there.
I need to finish my most recent draft and then I can send it to you.
Oh, so you're the one writing it?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Okay. So you're moving out of criticism and into the authorship of ushering. So you're going to be almost the prophet of the golden age of television.
I wouldn't call myself a prophet, but criticism is merely a capitalist label on someone who does research and shares their research. That's all I do, is I share my research and observations. And I've been researching and I've been observing, and I know what's wrong with television. And I have very good reason to believe I'm suited to fix it. I was going to do a scripted podcast, but that didn't exactly. Should have gotten in a little sooner.
Yeah, too much for the golden age of podcasting, I suppose. But yeah, so right now, we've had all these false golden ages of television.
Mhm.
Are we as a people? Do you think that we as a people are going to be ready for a golden age of television? Do you think that we as a people can even handle it if we're sort of at this point in our as a society in what we perceive to be the golden age of television? Are we even going to be ready for this?
Only if we go back to only airing one episode a week. I believe that when the golden show, as some are calling it, does appear, if it appears all at once, it would blind the human race. Not in a physical way, I mean an emotional way.
Right.
They would be unable to comprehend their own emotions because they have been overwhelmed by the text. And I say that in the artistic sense, the text, capital T, text.
Right. So is there anything that we should do as people, as viewers who should, is there anything that we should start doing to prepare ourselves?
I think be prepared to have patience. Have someone else in not the room with you, but in another room to check on you, because what we are concerned about happening is that when this golden show does arrive, once I have, talked to a distributor about it, is that you are going to start watching and be unable to stop if the episode does not end for you.
Right.
And by that point, if you're in a situation where if this does end up getting we're pushing for 13 episodes. A lot of people want 10. We're pushing for 13. If you do get a 13 episode order, then you're watching that. You're not sleeping. You're not drinking. You're not eating for that 13 hours, and you're going to want to watch it again. So if you end up in that situation, you are in a loop where if no one is coming into the room and they can't look at it, if someone comes into the room, they cannot look at the television, or else they too will be motionless. They will be incapacitated. Okay, and you don't want a chain kind of thing. You understand? So you need a supervisor. We need restrictions. We need to change how we approach television, because if we do not, the perfect show will be the end of the human race.
Wow. That's now I'm almost afraid of the golden age of television.
It's a logical conclusion. I mean, what else would you suppose? Yeah, let me ask you this. What would you suppose the best case scenario is? Just that everyone watches a nice show? That it's just a nice show that people like? That's not how ages work.
I mean, just kind of a funny show. Maybe it's sort of unscripted, and someone comes up with say a wacky character, and the other person just has to sort of improvise and
right. Well, The Office is streaming on Peacock. It sounds like that's what you're looking for.
Well, Philip Black, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
Hey, that was the show. It got a little meta. I'm not going to lie. That was my fault. I made it a little meta. But thank you all for being here. I hope you enjoyed the show. Let's bring back the cast. Let's bring back our guests, and we'll applaud them. Yeah. We just turned on everyone's microphones, and that's what it sounded like.
Very good.
Well, thanks, guys, for being here. Yes. This is the part we do a bit of a curtain call. So, Rob Alesiani, tell us what you got going on.
I'm in the digital productions of Study Hall, a long-running show that ran in Philly for a long time and has been running during the quarantine digitally, streaming over Zoom since March. It's at studyhallshow.com. You can check out our upcoming shows. And I make hot sauce, and you can follow me on Instagram at Trust the Sauces. Check it out. Thank you.
Andrew, what's cooking, buddy?
I have nothing really to plug. I haven't done a show in a while, but I do a dumb podcast with my friend Sean and Andrew. Talk about movies and sometimes other stuff is the full title, which that's on most podcast apps. I'm also just going to plug this this handsome sourdough loaf that I just
Very
pulled
nice.
out of the oven. The show started, and I don't have an Instagram for that. But if you want one, shoot me a text. I'm out in Lancaster now, so if you're in Philly or anywhere, you're gonna have to come here. But I'll do it. I just need like a day. A day is you got to tell me in advance. So that's all I got.
Cool. All right, this is the one I always have the problems with. Jack,
You got
what's
it.
up?
You can follow me on pretty much any social media channels at Jack Oakleaf. I'm on Twitter saying stuff all the time. And in the future, at some point, I might resume hosting my occasionally weekly quiz show, The Good Quiz, on twitch.tv/Jack Oakleaf. Other than that, I'm just chilling, baby.
Yeah, I mean, I think you should write. I think you should legitimately write that show. I think that'd be pretty good. I think that's gonna be. I think that's it doesn't sound like The Bachelor at all. I just wanted to point.
I think I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it.
You should. And Neil recorded everything in advance, so that's why he's just a picture. But what a good picture that is of Neil.
It is a good
He's probably talking about breakfast
waving
sandwich somewhere.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for being here. You guys were amazing. Round of applause.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
And of course, I always have to thank TatCom for putting this together. Wait, darn it. Wait, there it is. Everybody's saying it. It's the best looking comedy show coming out of Philly. Maybe, in terms of live comedy, it's probably the best looking one in the world. I'm going to say it. And no one's going to refute me because why would they? But if you want your next presentation to look this good, check them out. They're great. Anyway, this has been the show. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're, you should come to the next one. It'd be great too. But yeah, anyway, as always, I've been your host, Ryan D. Barlow. This has been People of Interest, and I invite all of you to please stay interesting. Have a good night.